Was Martin Luther King a Christian? Now, I want to start off by saying Martin Luther King did very good things for this country, like ending segregation. But his Christian philosophy, or so-called Christian philosophy, was all wrong. In fact, he denied the Trinity, the virgin birth, and the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and he rejects the second coming of Jesus Christ. And we will be talking about those things today. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing so I can reach more people towards the gospel and towards the truth. Number 1, the Trinity. Martin Luther King denied the Trinity, but why did he deny the Trinity? And he called it harmful because he thought it was irrational and he was taught in a liberal college who preached the social gospel. The social gospel is a movement that built on Protestant ethics, like feeding the poor, but we will talk about that later. He believed that the Trinity was harmful because he believed that it would diminish the value from the human aspect and the aspect of Jesus just to set an example for mankind. He just believed it just set an example, that Jesus set an example for mankind because, well, he did, but he only looks at the human aspect of Jesus Christ. Basically, what MLK did was humanize Jesus and did not believe that Jesus was God. So basically, he committed a heresy known as Arianism, which says that Jesus was created and not fully God, except Martin Luther King denied that Jesus was God completely. He believed that the Trinity, along with the virgin birth and the resurrection of Christ, was just a myth and said it was absurd. So Martin Luther King Jr., according to the Bible, is a false teacher according to 2 Peter chapter 2 verse 1 through 3. He was very skeptical of the Trinity because he could simply not understand the Trinity. So Martin Luther King was not an example for good Christian faith, but a good example for a moral against racism. The social gospel. Martin Luther King was a leader in the social gospel movement, which was a Protestant movement that fought injustice and wanted to spread equality. The social gospel applied justice over doctrine because of what the time period was about, and the whole point of the movement was to fight injustice and poor social economics and child labor. It was mainly just a bunch of socialists who got together who wanted to give money to the poor and help everyone grow wealth. It fought against child labor and alcoholism. But later, Martin Luther King was the leader of the Black social gospel movement, which was a movement focused on healing the racial divide and trying to unite people together as one, because Martin Luther King wanted to be together as one. The bad thing about the social gospel movement is it promoted LGBT ideologies, which are obviously against Christian ideology in 1 Corinthians chapter 6 verses 9 through 10. It also focused less on theology and more on political activism and entertainment, which Christianity should be focusing on healing the world, or at least trying to. And it should also focus on theology if they do want to heal the world. The social gospel also wanted to change what God is, and to change what original Protestantism is. They also had a misunderstanding of what sin is and blamed it on social structures rather than the human nature, but instead of focusing on human hearts to change, it focused on systemic issues. This movement also believed in a works-based salvation, which is heretical because the Bible emphasizes differently, and so does the church, starting from the early church. And yes, Catholics believe faith-based salvation, not a works-based salvation, for all the strawman people out there. This is also probably where Martin Luther King denied the resurrection of Christ and the virgin birth and the deity of Christ, because this movement also denied these things. So really, these are not Christian movements. It's just a movement of people who call themselves quote-unquote Christian. The social gospel also made churches political instead of what it is supposed to be. The virgin birth. Martin Luther King denied the virgin birth because he said it was irrational and illogical. He argued that there is no evidence to support it, even though the virgin birth is a miracle. It is called a miracle, so I guess Martin Luther King does not believe in miracles unless they have evidence. So, he would also have no faith in that, but Christianity is about having faith in some things that are impossible. Martin Luther also denied that it was traditional doctrine and said it was symbolic. He also said that there is a lack of biblical evidence that suggests that Jesus was really born of a virgin. Even though the Gospels do talk about it, except for Mark, I think. But even then, if you're a Christian, you have to believe in the virgin birth, or you're not really a Christian. He really just focused on humanity rather than the Bible and theology, which led to him to the social gospel. His seminary, which it was a liberal seminary, a theological liberal seminary, taught him that Mary was not a virgin and taught him many other things, which made him question what really happened in the Bible. He takes away part of the Bible to make it, in a sense, that it's a symbol and not meant to be taken literally, because of the lack of biblical evidence. When he rejected supernatural events from the Bible, he often called them illogical and taught this to his own church as well, which would mean he is an antichrist according to the Bible in Matthew chapter 24 verse 11, where it says, "Many false prophets will arise and deceive many." Another reason why Martin Luther King denied the virgin birth is because he simply does not understand it and tries to lean on his own understanding, which is also against the Bible, as we see in Proverbs chapter 3 verses 5 and 6. He started cutting doctrines of the Christian world off because he didn't believe in them, because they didn't line up with what his belief was, which was he believed more over science than theology. Now, science is good and all that, but if you're a Christian, you should focus on God and the nature of God rather than science, because man made science, but science was inspired by God, according to Galileo Galilei. So, science was inspired by God, so therefore science should point you towards God. Martin Luther King also denied the miracles of Jesus. The reason that Martin Luther King denied the resurrection was because he also said that it was illogical. He believed that the physical body never rose from the dead, but the spirit rose from the dead, rather than a physical resurrection. But that's also what happens when you deny that Jesus is God and claim that he was a human that just had a spirit. Martin Luther King also said that Jesus had a brain that was godlike, because he was so smart and only used Jesus as a moral compass of trying to heal the world. He also had early doubts about the resurrection of Jesus Christ ever since the age of 13 in his Sunday school, and he taught it to his Sunday school because of his skeptical doubts or skeptical thoughts. He believed that the resurrection was symbolic as well. Martin Luther King denied the miracles of Jesus Christ, and he denied all the miracles that Jesus performed. He viewed them as symbolic or just a metaphor. But the main reason he denied all the miracles is because they did not fit in with his science world. Because he said it was impossible, even though many things have been impossible before and that have been done before, like Tom Brady's 28-3 comeback in the Super Bowl, or how science discovered diamond rain on Neptune and Uranus in 1981, or how the launch of D-Day was successful, and that was a high risk. But Martin Luther King doesn't look at D-Day as a miracle, even though we should have lost that battle. So, there are many miracles in history before his time and have been proven to be a miracle, like the nukes that hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Even Oppenheimer, who invented those nukes, said that building a nuke was a miracle, because of the chain reaction. So how can Martin Luther not believe in any type of miracle, but witness miracles himself, like winning World War II when it was against the odds of the Allies, and the Axis should have won that? These are just 4 reasons that would make Martin Luther King Jr. a heretic, because he denied the Bible constantly and consistently. He denied the Council of Nicaea, and denied the virgin birth, denied the miracles, and denied the Trinity. When he calls the miracles irrational, he is calling God irrational, even though God is rational and reasonable. It is not logical to the human brain, but it is logical to people who follow Jesus. And he truly did not follow Jesus, because he would understand what God is doing and understand why he did it, or even if he didn't understand why he did it, he would follow God simply because he had his back. That is why Jesus destroys human wisdom and gives you wisdom that comes from him when you ask for wisdom, as we see in James chapter 1 verse 5 and in 1 Corinthians chapter 1 verses 18 through 25. So to call God irrational is saying he is illogical, and his existence is illogical because what God is isn't illogical. In fact, it is logical to have a God because has to be an uncaused cause. So when you call God illogical, you are calling what he created illogical. And now since what he created is illogical, that would mean you are illogical, Martin Luther King. So this is why Martin Luther King is not a Christian. So if you enjoyed these videos, have a blessed day, and please consider subscribing so that we can help reach the gospel to more people and throughout the world. Have a blessed day.